This channel does not promote or promotion any illegal activities. All content provided by this channel is meant only for educational purpose only.
Meeting with my father after I got him sent to jail for over 30 years. I just returned home from seeing my father as a free man for the first time in over 30 years. I am the reason he was locked away. I will try to recount the whole story from the beginning, and please stay with me. In the late 80s, my family moved to a small city in the Midwest from the East Coast. That's as specific as I want to get. The town was drastically different, but my father had taken a job there and was making good money. Within a year of us living there, we moved to a larger home on the other side of the city. That's where I made a lot of my friends, including a kid named Stan. Stanny was a bit of a wild card, but he was fun to be around. In fact, the first night we hung out, we went cow tipping near a big cattle farm a little ways from our neighborhood. It was the Midwest after all. But fun cow tipping and other silly games quickly evolved into stealing small things from liquor stores or smoking a big bad cigarette. Every bad thing we did, the greater the thrill became. Every time I swiped a candy bar from a shelf of a store or took a swig of some burning alcohol that tastes like gasoline, it gave me a rush. Eventually, we grew into bigger crimes. Stan had swiped a pistol from his father's drawer, a model 1911, if I recall right, and we swung it around wildly at each other for a while. It was unloaded, of course, but still fucking stupid. This is where it ties into my father. A few nights after Stanny had introduced the pistol into our world of little playthings, I begged him to take it to my house. I don't really know why I wanted it for the night, besides that it was simply fascinating. There it was, in my hand, a real gun. Fucking tubular, 14-year-old me thought. But that night, something was different. Stanny had given me a single bullet alongside the gun. It looked worn and scratched, but it took my fascination to another level. Oh, you think a gun is cool? Try a loaded one on for size. 14-year-old me nearly shit myself in excitement. So of course I took them both, and within the hour, I shot the bullet at a bottle in my backyard. My backyard was an open field of grain for miles, and when I fired that thing, it was loud. I remember not being able to hear myself speak afterward and shoving my fingertips deep into my ears just to make sure they weren't bleeding. And it wasn't just the initial blast that was loud, it echoed. It echoed far enough to catch the attention of some of my neighbors. A few minutes later my dad came home, same as always, and I bolted inside and curled on my bed, gun on the dresser, for what felt like forever. When I heard sirens wailing in the distance, and when they got louder instead of fading, I bolted to my dad's office and crammed the gun beneath some envelopes in his desk drawer while he was downstairs watching some television program. I remember that the gun was a little too large to be fully hidden, so I stuck stamps on the little parts that stuck out to conceal it. The police arrived with full gear and rifles pointed right at our door. Apparently neighbors reported one gunshot and police assumed that a murder or a suicide had been committed. I stepped out with my hands raised and they ushered me behind one of the cop cars. My dad was brought out in cuffs shortly after. It was explained to me that my dad was cleared on all charges relating to the gunshot, but they found an old warrant on his record from the 60s. According to the report, my father had committed manslaughter during a protest and fled. My father didn't even know he killed a man and had no idea what they were talking about. But alas, the charge stuck and he was taken away. That brings me to earlier today, when I spoke with him. He had tried countless times to get appeals and a new trial, but they never got around to it because the system is fucked and whatnot. I broke down in front of him and told him the story, and he was furious. He told me that he had thrown away over 3 decades of his life in a prison just because I was a shit-faced little kid with a fetish for crime. I begged for his forgiveness, but he said he simply couldn't. I drove him to my brother's apartment and cried all the way home. I needed to get this off my chest, and I need advice. What do? I feel so lost and empty, because I know he is right. I feel that a huge weight has toppled off my shoulders, but I still feel like a sack of shit. My fingers shake as I write all of this and tears pour down by the 3rd paragraph. I fired a gun in my neighborhood when I was a teen that brought police attention to my father, who was then convicted on an old manslaughter charge and spent 30+ years in prison. I told him the truth and he is furious. Using my partner's tablet to surprise him and accidentally spoiling my own surprise. So little backstory, last night my partner of 4 years and I were talking. He was telling me about this life coaching thing he wanted to do, but it was expensive, so he said he could not afford it. These people are his idols. He's a very aspirational person, and I know how much this would mean to him, and I could see how upset he was at the thought of not being able to do it. Now here is where I fucked up. This morning, I decided I would surprise him. I'd use my savings to pay for it for him. So whilst he is still asleep, I went onto his tablet to find it, but I didn't know the name of it, so I just went onto his history to find it. Invasion of privacy, I know. I do have his full permission to use his tablet whenever I want, and I wanted to surprise him. But when I went on there, I see the history of him purchasing a ring, not just any ring, the ring I pointed out if he were to ever propose. I quickly swiped off and put tablet back, but now I feel really bad. I ruined my own surprise, and while I'm so happy to know he actually wants to propose, I wish I had seen it. Now I don't know if I should just act like nothing happened and try to forget about it, or if I should tell him the truth of what I saw. We have nothing planned in the near future, so I can't imagine it would have been anytime soon. But I just know I'm going to be constantly expecting it now, and I'm sad I ruined it for myself. I know we will probably laugh about this one day. I think I will keep it a secret for now though, and maybe tell him after the time comes, but I definitely will not be using his stuff again. Lesson learned. I went on my partner's tablet to surprise him with something that I know would mean the world to him, but instead accidentally ruined my own engagement. Lying about crashing and getting someone fired. As most of the stories on this sub, even though the foo came to an end today, it started on Saturday. Anyways, a little bit of context. I went to do a year abroad, and recently came back to my home country, and my dad got a new car, but wasn't too keen on lending it to me because, well, I haven't driven in over a year. Anyways, to fuck up number 1. After going out for some drives with my dad, he finally agreed that I could take the car by myself, alone. Come Saturday, I went to the movies and parked my car in the parking lot. Anyways, the car is big, and the turn in order to leave the parking lot isn't, so in my many attempts to take it out, I crashed with the wall, and made a pretty nasty scratch on the door. Fuck up number 2, I arrived home, and break the news to my parents who were in the table, but instead of being honest, I lied about a motorcycle crashing into the door, running away, and leaving me with the nasty car scratch. Upon further interrogation from my parents, who even though angry, understood that accidents can happen, my mother asked me if I could recognize anything from the motorcycle, and I said that I didn't see much, only that it was from a food delivery service. This prompted more questions, and I lied which company was. Fuck up number 3 and last one. Mother, still angry about what happened, decides to write a letter to Mr. Food Delivery, explaining what happened. After some come and go, somehow the company could locate a motorcycle driver nearby, and said they would handle it. After an hour or so, Food County wrote my mom an email, saying that the guy was not going to continue with them, and that we'll receive a check to cover the costs. So here I am, writing this, feeling like shit for all that happened, and having an innocent guy fired.